holidays, they're supposed to be about joy and all that, but they can also bring up a lot of, mixed emotions, especially if you're dealing with the loss of someone close. And if you're finding this time of year tough, well, we're here for you. This deep dive is part of our 6-week thing on handling grief during the holidays. And today we're going to focus on tip 2, blending old traditions with new ones.
Right. So this tip is all about finding a way to kind of honor your loved one's memory, but also, gently make space for healing and new memories. It's not about just erasing the past or pretending like everything's the same,
Right.
but it's more about thoughtfully weaving those memories into like your present life.
Yeah, it's like saying, okay, things have shifted, but how do we honor our loved ones within this new reality?
Exactly. And that might mean adapting those traditions that you're used to, maybe changing them a bit, or even creating completely new ones that just feel better right now.
It's not about replacing old with new, but it's more about finding that balance, honoring the past, but also living in the present.
Exactly. And what's great about this is that it's totally personal. There's no right or wrong way to do it. What works for one person might not work for someone else, and that's okay. Just listen to yourself, what feels right and meaningful for you.
I think that's so important. We often put so much pressure on ourselves during the holidays to make everything perfect. But when you're grieving, it's even more important to give yourself permission to do things differently.
Yeah.
To create a holiday that feels real to how you're feeling.
I totally agree. And one thing that comes up a lot is this fear of letting go. Like if we change things, are we somehow forgetting our loved one?
Right. It makes sense. Those traditions are like threads that connect us to the people we've lost, especially during the holidays, when you feel their absence the most. So how do we make ourselves feel okay about adapting or creating new traditions without feeling like we're betraying their memory?
I think it helps to think about traditions differently. They're not meant to be stuck in time. They should change with us. They should reflect how our lives are changing. And, by adapting or creating new traditions, we're not erasing the past. We're simply saying our lives are different now, and this is how we honor our loved ones within this new context.
It's almost like those traditions become a living memory. They change and adapt as we go through life.
That's a great way to put it. And, our loved ones wouldn't want us to be stuck in sadness or feel like we have to do things exactly as they were. They would want us to find joy, connect with others, and keep making meaningful experiences even though they're not physically here.
That is a very comforting thought.
Yeah.
It reminds us that even though they're gone, their spirit lives on in our memories, in the love we share, and in how we honor them.
Exactly. And by blending the old with the new, we're making a space where their memory can exist alongside our own changing lives. It's about finding that sweet spot between honoring the past and embracing the present.
So how do we actually start blending old traditions with new ones in a way that feels both honoring and authentic to our own grief? Where do we even begin?
Well, I think a good place to start is to look at the traditions that mean the most to you.
Yeah.
Maybe it's decorating the tree together, or baking your grandma's famous cookies, or watching your dad's favorite holiday movie. Think about why those traditions are so special to you and how they make you feel.
So it's like taking a minute to really connect with those traditions and understand why they hold such a special place in our hearts.
Right. And once you understand those core traditions, then you can think about how you might want to adapt them or change them a little, or even come up with new ones that feel more like where you are now emotionally.
So it's almost like we're giving ourselves permission to make those traditions our own.
Exactly. There's no right or wrong way to do this. It's about what feels right for you.
Yeah.
What honors your loved one, but also supports you during this difficult time.
I love that. It's such a compassionate approach. And, speaking of traditions, I remember when my grandfather passed away a few years ago, one of our favorite things to do was listen to him read "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" every year. He had this amazing voice, and he would always get so into it, acting out all the characters.
That sounds lovely.
It really was. And after he passed, it felt too hard to even think about doing it without him. But then a few years later, we decided to adapt it. We gathered around the fireplace, and each took turns reading a part of the poem. It wasn't the same, of course, but there was something so beautiful about hearing his words again.
Yeah.
Each of us bringing our own voice to the story.
That's such a beautiful way to honor him, but also create a new experience together.
Yeah.
It's the perfect example of how blending old traditions with new ones can be both healing and, help us move forward.
It really was. And it made me realize that even though traditions change, the love and memories they hold stay with us.
Yeah, it's like those traditions carry those memories even as our lives go on. And
Yeah.
sometimes the smallest things can be the most powerful. Maybe it's lighting a candle in their memory at dinner, or putting their favorite photo on the mantle, or just taking a moment to think about a special memory.
Yeah, I find those little things can be really grounding during the holidays when things can get so hectic.
They really can. And for some people, blending traditions might mean doing things that reflect their loved one's interests. Like if they love to read, maybe you could donate books to a library or school in their name.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they loved being outdoors, maybe plant a tree or set up a bird feeder.
Those are really thoughtful ideas. It's about finding ways to keep their memory alive in your everyday life.
Exactly. And it's important to remember this blending traditions thing. It's a journey, not a finish line.
Right.
Some days will be easier than others, and that's fine. There might be times when certain traditions just feel too hard, and that's okay too. Give yourself permission to skip them or change plans or just do what feels right in that moment.
That's so important. It's about honoring your own needs and realizing that grief doesn't follow a straight line.
Right. And if you find yourself struggling, don't be afraid to reach out for help. Talk to a friend, a family member, or a therapist.
Yeah.
Sometimes just talking about those feelings and memories can be a huge relief. And there are lots of resources out there like grief support groups and online communities where you can connect with people who understand what you're going through.
Exactly. You're not alone in this. And as you explore this idea of blending old traditions with new ones, just remember to be kind to yourself. This is about finding what feels right for you, what honors your loved one, but also supports your own well-being during this time.
I love that. Such a compassionate approach.
And embracing the present might also mean trying totally new traditions, things you've never done before. Maybe start a new holiday ritual that reflects who you are now, or volunteer for a cause that speaks to you, or even just travel somewhere new for the holidays.
Those are great ideas. It's like giving ourselves permission to experience the holidays in a way that reflects who we are now while still holding on to those precious memories.
Exactly. And sometimes those new experiences, those times when we push ourselves outside our comfort zone, can bring us unexpected joy and connection. It's like opening ourselves up to new possibilities, new ways of experiencing the holidays, even while grieving. And those moments of joy don't mean we love the person we lost any less. In fact, it can be a way to honor them by continuing to live life to the fullest.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it. I'd love to hear from you, our listeners. What are your thoughts on blending old traditions with new ones? Are there any traditions you're adapting or any new ones you'd like to start this year? Share your thoughts with us. We're here to listen and support you on this journey.
As we wrap up our deep dive on this whole blending traditions thing, I think it's important to talk about all the emotions that come up during the holidays, especially when you're grieving.
Absolutely. Holidays can be an emotional roller coaster, even at the best of times. But when you're grieving, those feelings can get even more intense.
Yeah, it's like you're going through all these different emotions, joy, connection,
Hmm.
and then sadness, longing, even maybe guilt for feeling happy.
Exactly. And that guilt can be really tough. We might think we're betraying our loved one by letting ourselves feel joy or laughter. But it's so important to remember that those feelings don't mean we love them any less.
Right? It's like they're still with us sharing those happy moments.
I love that. And one of the best things we can do during this time is to be kind to ourselves. Grief is a journey, and it's important to be patient and give ourselves the time we need to heal.
Yeah, it's like treating ourselves the way we would treat a close friend who's going through something hard. And that means recognizing that our needs and emotions might change from one day to the next.
Some days we might feel strong, and other days we might feel totally drained. And that's completely normal. The important thing is to listen to ourselves and adjust our plans if we need to. If a tradition feels too overwhelming, it's okay to skip it or ask for help or find a different way to honor our loved one.
It's about taking care of ourselves first and not feeling like we have to follow all the rules.
Right. And if you're struggling, don't be afraid to ask for help. Talking to a friend, family member, or therapist can make a world of difference.
Absolutely.
And there are support groups and online communities where you can connect with others who get it.
Connection can be so healing, especially during the holidays.
It reminds us that we're not alone. As we close out this deep dive, I want to leave you with this. Think about one small change you could make to a tradition this year that would feel good and meaningful to you. Maybe lighting a candle in your loved one's memory, making a special ornament, or sharing a favorite story.
It's about finding those little ways to remember them while making space for healing and new beginnings.
The holidays after a loss are definitely hard, but with time, self-care, and support, we can find peace, connection, and even joy in the midst of our grief.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We hope this conversation about blending old and new traditions has given you some comfort, guidance, and inspiration as you move through this holiday season.